What happens when a CEO goes undercover in their own company? What secrets do employees share when they think no one is watching? You won't believe what one CEO overhears in his own store. This is a story that will make you rethink everything you know about leadership. The store is buzzing with the usual rhythm of a busy day. Shoppers wander through aisles, some looking for specific items, others casually browsing. The sound of the register ringing and the quiet hum of conversations between employees and customers fills the air. It's a typical day, but there's an underlying energy, a sense of routine, with the staff moving efficiently between tasks. Employees are helping customers find what they need, stocking shelves, and making sure the store is in order. Among the employees is a new face, a young man in a simple uniform, blending in with the rest of the staff. He's not just any employee, though. The CEO of the company in disguise has entered his own store to see what it's really like on the ground. He's wearing the same uniform as the others, standing behind the counter, pretending to be just another worker. His movements are deliberate but not too obvious as he tries to get a feel for the daily grind. No one knows who he really is. To the customers and the other employees, he's just another newbie trying to get the hang of things. He's listening, observing, and making mental notes while trying to act like one of the crew. He watches how people engage with customers, how they handle stress, and how the store operates in real time. The atmosphere feels calm, yet there's a subtle tension in the air, a sense that things aren't quite as smooth as they seem on the surface, but no one knows what's to come next. Behind the register, the cashier moves with practiced ease. She's been here for years, long enough to know the ins and outs of every shift. Her smile is warm and familiar, greeting customers like old friends. The routine is second nature, scanning items, making small talk, and packing bags, all while keeping an eye on the line of customers that seems to grow steadily. She's quick, efficient, and knows exactly where everything is. As regular customers walk up, she greets them by name. "Hey Bob, how's the family?" she asks a man with a familiar face, scanning his items as they chat about the weather and local news. It's clear she's more than just a cashier. She's part of the community, a friendly face that makes the store feel like a place people can return to. She knows the store's regulars, and they know her, often sharing personal stories as she bags their groceries or rings up their purchases. She handles each transaction with care, offering helpful suggestions when needed, and dealing with the occasional disgruntled customer with calm professionalism. Even when things get busy, she never seems rushed. Her ability to multitask is impressive, talking to customers while managing the register, all the while keeping the mood light with small jokes and quick exchanges. Though she's friendly with everyone, there's an underlying weariness in her eyes, a sign of someone who has been doing this job day in and day out. She's dedicated, but also a little bit tired of the routine. Still, she presses on, doing her best to keep the store running smoothly and the customers happy, never once suspecting the person standing next to her. The new guy is someone who has the power to change everything she knows about this place. As the line slows down, the cashier finishes ringing up a young woman's items. They exchange a few pleasantries, the usual small talk, before the conversation shifts. The customer, a regular, leans in a little, lowering her voice just enough for the cashier to hear clearly over the background noise. "You know," the customer begins, "I've been shopping here for years, but lately, things just haven't been the same. The prices keep going up, but the service, it's just not what it used to be." The cashier nods, a knowing look in her eyes. She lets out a small sigh and leans in slightly, dropping her voice to match the tone. "I hear you," she says. "It's like the higher-ups don't care about us anymore. They keep changing things, cutting hours, and expect us to do more with less." Her fingers tap lightly on the counter, a subtle gesture of frustration. The customer looks at her, surprised at how candid she's being. "That's a shame. It's hard enough to keep customers happy with all the changes." "Exactly," the cashier agrees, shaking her head. "We're understaffed half the time, and when we do get help, it's just temporary. They bring in new people who don't really know what's going on. It makes the job harder for everyone." She pauses for a moment, looking around as if to make sure no one is overhearing. "And don't even get me started on the new management rules. They're pushing us to meet impossible goals, and it just feels like they're setting us up to fail." Her voice lowers even more, as though she's sharing a secret. I don't think the people at the top understand what it's really like down here. They make all these decisions in their fancy offices, but they've never had to deal with angry customers who wait in line for 20 minutes, or work shifts that stretch for hours without a proper break. The customer, nodding sympathetically, continues to listen, clearly surprised by how open the cashier is being. The cashier seems to forget for a moment that anyone might be listening, her words flowing freely as she vents her frustrations. She doesn't hold back, speaking as if this is the first time she's truly allowed herself to express how she feels about the direction the company is heading. The CEO stands just a few feet away, quietly observing as the conversation unfolds. He keeps his eyes focused on the register, his hands busy with a task to avoid, drawing attention to himself. But inside his mind is racing. He hadn't expected to hear something like this, at least not so soon. As the cashier speaks, her frustration becomes more and more apparent, and he can't help but feel a pang of guilt. He spent so much time in meetings making decisions from a distance, never really understanding what it's like to be in her shoes. She's right. They've cut hours, pushed for higher goals, and yet it's the people on the front lines who are expected to make it all work. His heart sinks as he listens to her talk about the new management rules and the lack of support. He had heard whispers of employee dissatisfaction before, but hearing it directly from someone who's lived it day in and day out feels different. It feels real. He tries to balance his role as CEO with the empathy he's feeling as a fellow employee. He knows he can't show any sign that he's actually the person in charge, but inside his thoughts are a whirlwind. Part of him wants to step forward, to reveal himself and start fixing things right now, but he knows he can't. The mask of his disguise has to stay on for a while longer. Still, every word she speaks resonates deeply with him. Understaffed, unprepared, and unheard. Those are words that echo through his mind as the conversation continues. He starts to realize how disconnected he's been from the day-to-day struggles of his employees. All the meetings, all the strategies, none of it seemed as real until now. He's always tried to do what's best for the company, but hearing these frustrations from someone who clearly cares about the job, someone who has given years of her life to this place, hits him hard. In that moment, he feels the weight of his position. He can't change everything overnight, but he knows something has to give. The way she's talking, the way she's just opening up, it's clear that no one else has really listened to her, or anyone like her, in a long time. The realization settles in that leadership isn't just about decisions made at a boardroom table. It's about listening, really listening. The moment comes quietly, almost too quickly for the cashier to realize. She finishes bagging the last of the customer's items and turns toward the next in line, still unaware of who's been standing beside her. The CEO takes a deep breath, glancing around to make sure no one else is watching. It's now or never. He steps forward, his voice calm but firm. "Excuse me," he says, catching her attention. She looks up, her expression neutral at first, but then it freezes when she meets his eyes. He takes a small step back, feeling the weight of what he's about to say. "I need to tell you something," he begins, his voice steady. "I'm not actually a new employee. I'm the CEO of this company." For a moment, there's silence. The world seems to pause around them as the words hang in the air. The cashier blinks, her face flushing instantly. Her hands freeze over the register, and she stares at him as if he spoke in a foreign language. She opens her mouth to speak, but nothing comes out. She looks down at the counter, then back up at him, eyes wide, disbelief evident in her expression. The CEO watches her closely, waiting for the shock to wear off. Her face turns a deep shade of red. "Wait, what?" she says, her voice almost a whisper. "You're the CEO?" She glances around as though she's expecting someone to step out from behind a corner, as though this is some kind of prank. But no one else is there. He nods. "Yes, I've been working here undercover to get a better understanding of the company, what it's really like on the ground. I heard everything you said." His voice softens, not wanting to make her feel more uncomfortable than she already does. The cashier's hand goes to her forehead, a nervous laugh escaping her lips. "Oh my God, I didn't mean to. I was just—" She stumbles over her words, embarrassment flushing her cheeks even more. She's caught off guard, not knowing how to process the reality of the situation. "I didn't think—" I thought you were just... I didn't know. Her voice trails off as she looks down at the register, clearly mortified. She shifts uncomfortably, hands moving from the counter to her apron, her fingers fumbling with the fabric. She's torn between the embarrassment of having spoken so freely and the unexpected relief of knowing that someone is actually listening to her concerns. I didn't think anyone cared, she mutters under her breath, her eyes still focused on the counter. It's just been so hard lately. I didn't know how else to say it. The CEO watches her closely, his own heart heavy with empathy. I do care, he says softly. And thank you for being honest. It's important to me that I hear what's really going on in the company. Your words, they matter. Her face softens a little, the shock still there, but now replaced with a sense of vulnerability. She finally meets his eyes, her expression shifting to one of quiet recognition. She doesn't know what the next steps will be, but for the first time she feels heard. She exhales slowly, still processing everything. But now there's a hint of something more, a glimmer of hope. The CEO steps a little closer, his posture relaxed but attentive. He can see the tension in the cashier's shoulders, the way her hands still shake slightly as she adjusts the register. He takes a deep breath before speaking, trying to bridge the gap between his position as CEO and the employee standing before him. I appreciate you being open with me, he says, his voice calm. I know it's not easy to say what you did, especially not to someone who's supposed to be in charge. But I'm glad you did. We need to hear this kind of feedback. She nods, still a little overwhelmed but grateful for his understanding. I just, I don't know who else to tell, you know? I've tried talking to management before, but it's like no one really listens. Things just get worse, and we're stuck. People are stressed out, and we're losing good employees because of it. The CEO listens carefully, his mind processing every word she says. He hadn't realized the depth of the disconnect, how the disconnect between upper management and the employees on the floor had grown so wide. He had heard complaints before, but hearing it from someone who lives it day in and day out hits him differently. I understand, he responds sincerely. The goal has always been to improve things, but it sounds like we've missed the mark in some areas. He pauses, choosing his words thoughtfully. What do you think could help? What do you feel needs to change? The cashier takes a moment, thinking carefully. She looks around the store, as if trying to piece together her thoughts before speaking. For one, we need more support. There's just not enough of us, and we're expected to do everything. We can't keep up with the demands. Maybe we need more consistent staffing or better training for the new people coming in. It's hard when you're the only one who knows what's going on, and everyone else is still figuring it out. The CEO nods, making notes in his mind. More support and better training. Got it. And what else? She hesitates for a second, but then continues. Management needs to be more involved. Not just checking boxes, but really seeing how we're doing. And not just waiting until things get bad. We need better communication. We feel like we're just numbers sometimes, like the decisions are made far away, and we're the ones left to pick up the pieces. He feels the weight of her words. I hear you. I'll make sure to take a closer look at how we're communicating across the company. We can't keep acting like we're disconnected from the front lines. The people here, that's what keeps everything running smoothly. The cashier looks at him, a faint glimmer of hope returning to her expression. I know it's not easy, but if things were just a little different, if we had a little more support and understanding, this place could be so much better for everyone. He nods again, his mind already racing with ideas and solutions. I promise, I'm going to make sure these things are addressed. We'll work on making improvements, and I'll be taking this feedback directly to the team. She lets out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding, a subtle weight lifting from her shoulders. I just want to see things get better. I really do. The CEO smiles gently, offering a reassuring nod. And we will. Thank you for speaking up. It matters more than you know. The conversation between the CEO and the cashier marks a turning point for both of them. For the CEO, it's a wake-up call, a reminder of how important it is to stay connected to the realities his employees face every day. It's one thing to make decisions from a boardroom. It's another to hear firsthand how those decisions impact the people on the ground. The experience forces him to reassess not only the company's policies, but also the way he leads. He leaves with a renewed sense of purpose, committed to creating a more open, supportive work environment. For the cashier, the conversation brings a sense of relief. She's finally been heard, her concerns acknowledged by someone with the power to make real changes. It's a rare moment of validation, one that restores a bit of faith in the company she's worked for all these years. She now understands that there's a possibility for improvement, maybe not overnight, but with leadership that genuinely cares about employee well-being. The experience underscores the importance of open communication within a company. When employees feel their voices are valued, it fosters trust and loyalty. Too often, concerns are buried under layers of bureaucracy, and management remains disconnected from the day-to-day struggles of its workforce. But moments like these, when leaders take the time to listen, can spark meaningful change. This kind of transparency,